Hello, I'm Richard Vobes, the Bald Explorer, and I'm out on another walk. Well, actually, I'm on a church visit today. The church behind me is St Andrew's at Beddingham. Beddingham is a tiny little hamlet now, just south of Lewes and east of Lewes, actually, and just north of Newhaven. It's just off the A26, if you know this particular area. You've got the Newhaven roundabout off the A27, which takes you down to the port. And on my left, you've got the South Downs here, and cutting through is the River Ouse that will come from Newhaven up to Lewes. And the church here is now a mixture of different ages, St Andrew's. We're going to have a look inside and investigate that. Was and is close to the River Ouse, and at one time here was a modest port. In fact, the whole place must have been relatively big. The hamlet originally here, important for such a church, as we will see. But now, like so many places, all that industry, all that community has completely gone. So here's the church with a big flint wall all around it, and we'll have a little gander at that. This area dates back to Neolithic times, I believe, because we've got Mount Caburn just over the road here, and there's lots of burial mounds and things, and an Iron Age hill fort on the top. Let's go through this gate, if I can open it, and close it at the same time. And now we see the church resplendent here, built in local flint. The body of the church really is Norman to begin with, and then onwards. However, let's walk up here and I'll tell you a bit more. Originally there was a wooden Saxon church here around 800 not BC, AD, and it was later changed from wood into stone. And as you can see, the stone here, this is a much later south porch, but you can see here that the stone is flint. I'm just approaching the tower. So, as you'll probably be aware, churches, when you go to them now, of course, are a mishmash of different ages. The towers are very much a later addition. The early churches would have been probably here a single cell with a community around. Apparently, prior to the Saxon period, there was a Roman settlement here, and a Roman villa had been excavated in the late 70s, and I think again in the 90s. So there was some Roman settlements just coming around the edge of the west end of the church here. Lovely old door. You can't go through there. I've been in the church already, and I know that there's a great big bar going across it, so you can't actually go through. And the tower here. So this tower is probably 16th century, and an interesting thing about the tower, so much later to the church, mid 16th century, so about 1540, 1550, and it's believed that the stones built on this tower came from the Lewes Priory, which was ravaged and closed down because of the dissolution of the monasteries, and so a number of stones were being grabbed by local landowners, and I didn't realise also church builders. And so this is a combination of rubble, some nice stone here, and flint. It makes a very good square bell tower. Let's go round this side. Some interesting graves around. How interesting, when we go inside the church you'll see why these added aisles are here, or at least not necessarily why, but you'll see that they are. There's a little blocked up door, sloping roof here. The church has widened. There is a chimney just above me here. If I get into a position where you can see it, just up there. And interestingly, in the Victorian period, there were placed in some form of heating. And I'm not surprised, because churches are generally cold, especially in the winter. Although today it's actually it's a very sunny day, filming in August, and actually it's quite warm. Here we've got the east window, which is leaded with great big iron bars in front of it, but no stained glass. And I don't know whether the stained glass that was here was smashed up during Reformation period, but the Victorians obviously didn't put anything in. But there is some stained glass on the other windows. This is an interesting memorial from 1777 in memory of, it looks like William Crawley, formerly of this parish. Another door, and let's go in. So we'll hop back up here. It's quite windy today, which is a bit of a blow, but we'll go in through the only entrance now, which is through the later built southern porch. Lovely old doorway with a little carved motif there. Looks like grapes and an anchor. On this side it is some oak, a little twig of oak. Through this door, which isn't the original door by any means, and here we are. The thing you notice first of all about this church is it's incredibly spacious and full of aisles. I'll just pan round a bit so you get to see the interior. You get the size of the place. Behind me, the tower that we walked around, and the font. And I thought what was interesting about the font is there's lots of space around the font. Often the font is crammed in a corner, but here it's in this wonderful space so that you can get all the way around it. Especially if you've got larger families and everybody wants to come and see the new addition to the family being baptised. I'll just open up this if I can. Oh, it's quite heavy. You can't really see in there, but it's lead lined. That must be an oak lid. Let's walk down to the altar. There are tiles on the floor underneath this carpet. That I'm imagining is all in the Victorian period. And we come down towards the east window, large east window, but not adorned by any colour at all. And the altar in front of you, and this, of course, is the chancel. And here we have some of the windows that have got some stained glass in them. That's one there, it says 1856, so that's very much, Victorian period. It looks a bit William Morrissey, doesn't it? I don't know whether it is or not. And we've got these pews, but originally, of course, this would have been a wooden church. Then the Normans had it, and in the Saxon time, what I forgot to mention before the Normans, in the Saxon times, it was a Royal Minster, so it was a very important place. And being located close to the Ouse, the River Ouse, I guess it was very important for bringing stuff in, export and imports and that sort of thing. But you don't get any of that sense now, of course. As we stroll down, all the decoration seems to be the Victorian stuff here, these carvings and things, I don't know, but just the style of it doesn't look as if it's particularly old, although very nicely done, one has to say. And just want to show you some of these frescoes or wall paintings on the arch here. Clearly have been uncovered. So much has changed in the church, but it's very spacious, very tall, and has the roots from the Saxon period of being very important. It is quite, I always find it's quite amazing. These aisles have been added, as I mentioned earlier, they've been added, and you have all this space. And of course, after, I suppose, the 1900s, so the First World War and then the Second World War, attendances have diminished greatly, and you do wonder how many people come here, but clearly a very much loved and looked after church. Let's leave. The great thing here, as I go through the door, close it behind me, is this amazing view. Come out into the bright sunshine. A beautiful spot, a downland church now, with graves that are left here with this terrific view of the South Downs. It is rather spectacular. Anyway, that's my little investigation and quick look round at St Andrew's here at Beddingham in East Sussex. Thank you so much for joining me. If you enjoyed it, give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to follow, like, subscribe, and if you'd like to become a patron and support what I do, then that would be fantastic. But until next time, bye for now. Bye bye.